Okay. One big box. Turn it like that. Sort of worked. Alright. Yeah, nothing else in there. Before we go through the anime, we have these birthday presents. Mythbusters Season 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Haven't looked too closely to make sure they're all good, but the presumption is they are. I guess my friend was a little worried about the fact that I think some of the already open ones, he checked that they were region free. That says region 1. I'll have to take a look, I guess, but it might be good. Oh well. Next up we have the Rose of Versailles, Lady Oscar, the Rose of Versailles. This is on Blu-ray, so, you know. So, since all this stuff kind of arrives... Well, I guess technically they're arriving the date of their release, but they're arriving late enough. Let's see, that's a region A. Japanese with English subtitles. Basically, these are the Discotheque Eastern Star end of the month stuff that tends to happen. So we got, you know, same inside that side. That's a expected 2 discs. Okay, this is collection 1. I was gonna say I was a bit surprised that this wasn't like 52 episodes as standard on standard definition. That's 20 episodes on 2 discs. Episodes 1 through 10, 11 through 20. The inside, oh, the artwork behind this disc looks familiar. I'm wondering if that was used for the DVD version. It wasn't called Lady Oscar, the Rose of Versailles. It was just called the Rose of Versailles. But I guess this is probably closer to its more official Japanese name. Next we have Saint Seiya Knights of the Zodiac Classic Movie Collection on Blu-ray. And it's interesting because, you know, there's this rounded edge thing going on with these slipcovers, which I don't think I've seen before. So this is very... Region A. Audio. It looks like there's... Okay, this Japanese with English subtitles. Justice has never looked so shiny. Here's the 1 disc. The classic movie collection. Interesting. Next up, we've got Scuraido. Scuraido is basically the way it's pronounced in the title catch. The commercial break at the middle when some anime announce their names. Well, yeah, that's cool. The only thing I wonder about this is, why are we seeing that guy? Who's that guy? Do I remember? I don't know. This one does have English dub and Japanese with English subtitles. Region A. The other interesting thing about this is you could almost treat any of the last 3 episodes as a finale to the series. Granted, each ending would have a very different. So if it was the third to last It'd be a pretty bad ending. I realize I never looked at this. This says extra features, so I'm trying to remember. It says 14 through 26, is that right? Might be right. Opening, closing, promos, commercials. Is that? Yeah, there's commercials. And overall, I remember just really enjoying it. Next up, we have Mon Colle Knights, original uncut Japanese language edition. There's a lot of neat things going on here. The super deformedness is weird, but I don't know. That thing kind of reminds me a little bit of Cardcaptor Sakura. And the world of monsters and powerful hidden treasures if they can take them. I hear loose discs, so let's get this open so that I can... Oh, this one actually says 51 episodes standard definition. Yeah, so some of these others I was maybe expecting something like that, but this one is definitely like that. Oof, sorry about that. There was a part of me that was thinking this is reminiscent of Magic Knight's Rayearth, but I'm not sure. It could just be that I interpret these as the main characters, but this character is slightly further back, and no, main character's near the front there. So I'm not sure I know exactly what I'm dealing with here. Because there's plenty of things here that tell me that this is definitely not that. It's just reminiscent of it for some reason. I guess I don't entirely know why. I am very curious about it though. It's Japanese with English subtitles. Region A. I'm not seeing where it's talking about special features, but that's an interesting thing. Next up, we've got Hero Mask. Whose face is behind the evil of the mask? Is it Sentai collection? Or Sentai release? Come on. So, let's see. We've got Region A, we've got all 24 episodes on 3 discs. English, Japanese. The main thing I'd wonder about... I'm trying to decide where that information would be. But I kind of have a sneaky suspicion this could be a Netflix sort of thing. Guess I'm not sure. These don't look Netflix. This one kind of actually gives me a slight Josei vibe. Which is not a genre you hear the name of a whole lot, I think. But, oh, whatever. And then finally, Lupin III, The Elusiveness of the Fog. Blu-ray. Although that said, I don't remember getting this one on DVD. I might have, but you know, oh, come on, stupid plastic, just break already. Get back to the future, or will Fujiko's existence be biffed? Well, time travel, huh? Japanese with English subtitles. I see region A there. And we pop this out. Take a peek inside, and as usual, there's a there's an actual full picture of the front art. Well, alright. I'll just get this back in there and say, here's this week's anime DVD collection update. So, once again, I continue to pretty much only watch the anime with my Friday friend, which was some more episodes of Gate, of course. I'm trying to think if there's anything really interesting I can say about it, because, we're not watching it as fast as I would on my own, and so, saying the same thoughts over and over again is weird. I guess the only strange thought, this includes the part where you meet the Emperor's son, or at least the one who's kind of the notable douchebag of the people, and like I mentioned last week, the show has a tendency to be very comic book villain, I guess, with some of its stuff, and I think he's a really good example as well. But the dynamics of what's involved are definitely very interesting and different than what you would normally expect, so it's, I guess I mentioned before that, it covers some episodes that are powerful. Now, it's kind of interesting because one of the things I noted is that there is a stereotype in some isekai anime, and this one's actually kind of close to touching on a lot of those tropes as well. So, there's this element where in anime people are introduced specifically to Japanese cuisine, and they are enamored by it. And it's interesting because we can kind of tell from culture to culture that there's a little less universality to stuff that's considered great for everybody, I guess. And at the same time, it kind of makes sense from a narrative perspective, because it's not like this was made for an international audience. This was made, primarily for Japanese people to consume. So it kind of makes sense that, things like that, where it's just like, these are the things about our own culture that we enjoy, and, if we go to another world, it'd be really cool if they enjoyed it too. And, sometimes, that it toes the line with a lot of stuff that this already does, where sometimes it can feel like that's on the edge of pretentiousness, and sometimes it's just for fun. And I mentioned some of this because it's interesting that the introduction of the Emperor's son actually opens up the gate for potential tropes that happen in these, where it's like, it doesn't seem like our main characters could agree with this person at all, but then he kind of learns about mustard sauce on a meat, and he really loves the food, and it's just like, yeah, okay, well, maybe he's a jockey asshole, but he can respect the fact that, these people have good food, even if he didn't know that they were the people on this hill or something like that. But it opens the gate to that sort of thing, and it's not like the show's not done things like that. When Princess Pina Colada and her Rose Knights are introduced to yaoi, boy on boy love, they're instantly enamored by it, even though that wouldn't make any sense. But it is one of those things where it's just known that, I guess some Japanese women are really into that, and so it's kind of fun if, that trope carries over to isekai or whatever. And so it's kind of interesting that it plays with that idea, even though it doesn't stick with it, because, there's important things that it explores. It's nothing interesting, but it's just kind of interesting to see the tropes play out, and it's enjoyable, even if sometimes it's a little weird. And of course, it has plenty of tropes I really don't like. I mean, like the very first episode here introduces the Dark Elf, and when she shows up, oh hey, there's a misunderstanding about that guy being a sexual pervert, even though he's not. And it's kind of interesting because, if you take a look at the main harem that forms around our main character, I mean, pretty much the main character I like is La Lorena, and that's mostly because I really just appreciate just how studious and inquisitive she is. It's really quite great.
And the interesting thing is, there's kind of different personalities shared amongst the different people. Where, like, the reason I don't like Rory Mercury is because she kind of represents this uncontrolled person, and I really don't like those personalities. I mean, it kind of came to me that it's a good description for the characters from Demon Hunter or Demon Slayer that I did not enjoy. Like, there's some of the concepts that I really like, but the way they play out, it just kind of feels like they're, clawing at the main character and dragging him down, and his job is somehow to control these people who lack the basic self-control to control themselves. And Roaring Mercury isn't as bad as them, but she does kind of represent that from a certain degree, and I can understand why some people would enjoy that, but I definitely don't. And my main problem with Tuca is just that I really do not... I'm really quite terrified of the idea of having a relationship with a girl that would have mental issues. And in this case, it's like she always acts really nice and there, and I like how it subverts expectations with some of the stuff there in terms of, like, normally if you have an elf watching a giant earth-moving thing moving dirt out of the way so they can start building a refugee camp for people, normally you would kind of expect the elves to look at that sort of thing and say, this is terrible, how are they doing this to nature? But instead her comment is, my dad would really like to see this. And I think that's really great because it kind of indicates an understanding of the relationship between people and the environment around them, which is to say, I think it's a really good idea for us to try to preserve the environment, but at the same time, we shouldn't look at preservation just for the sake of preservation per se. So, I think as an example, we definitely have this idea of historical structures. Yeah, this one was built hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and it's really neat, but at the same time, I also just can't help but wonder if sometimes we just hold on too strongly to imagery of the past as opposed to, this is nice, but it's not like we have the huts that were built on these grounds not billions of years, but thousands of years ago, or something like that. Over time, we do have to accept the fact that we can't just hold on to history for the sake of holding on to history. We should learn from history, but I'm not sure that we necessarily learn from history by saying, okay, well, we intentionally kept the entire downtown looking like it did in colonial times. And I actually can kind of respect places that keep it that way because they're doing it, I think, partially for tourist attraction reasons. And if that works, that works. But at the same time, sometimes you just have to say, if people aren't coming to see it, as nice as it is to hold on to it, we have to accept the fact that, we can't always do that. I think we can see some of that with, like, pro-environmentalist stuff where, like, if we kept people's houses as they were 200 years ago, they would probably not have as well insulation. Maybe they can't do double pane windows for stuff. Maybe they can't put in a better air circulation system, a central air system or something like that. Maybe you can't install solar panels on the roof or something like that. So, it's all trade-offs. And so I think the best thing is to just kind of respect things when they're there, but when things need to change, accept them. And I kind of been thinking this because every time I walk to the grocery store, there's this part of the, I don't know if strip mall is the right word, but just the chain of stores that was right next to the grocery store. Well, those buildings are down because, COVID has been really good financially for grocery stores, but really bad for a lot of other places. So the grocery store is expanding into where those places used to be, and those had to go down. And I miss one of the restaurants there that changed a couple of times, and I never did go to that dry cleaner, even though I probably should have done that like 8 years ago. But there's things about that I miss, but at the same time, I have to accept the fact that there's also an argument for, as our society is maybe changing to one where people are maybe not going out to eat as much, then maybe you need grocery store expansions. And, it's sad to see those places go, but at the same time we have to say, no, but that's the way we have to go forward in order to be able to supply better groceries to everybody. And I don't know if that's actually the case, but I do wonder if that's the case. And I don't know. And to me, it kind of just also raises the question of if the elves have to live in the forest, but the forest has to stay the same forever and ever and ever. What if that forest isn't being productive to humans in general? Well, that should be okay, because it's not like the entire world has to be productive to humans. But of course we run into the problem, which is why deforestation is happening, where sometimes people do need more space to do stuff, and that comes at the conflict with forest. And so deforestation tends to happen, as I understand, because of the need for expanded farming and things like that. And there's probably an element of inefficiency going on there, but at the same time we can't really force it to be efficient, because I think that causes us to take over the economy and destroy the local economy. But the point is, to a certain degree, we need to keep nature working because it's good for us. Good biodiversity is good for us. Good trees to convert carbon dioxide into oxygen and pull carbon out of the air. It's good for us. And at the end of the day, you know, we should have the ideal of seeing if we can help other species and creatures if we can. But if mountain lions are too dangerous for humans, then we can't just say, oh, well, let's let them accidentally kill humans every once in a while. People kind of have to be able to live their own lives. And it's an unfortunate reality that there's an element of nature versus human there, but at the same time, you know, I'm going on a really long, weird tangent here. All to say that I kind of appreciate the fact that these aren't elves that are like, the forest is pure. The truth of the matter is, forests aren't pure. I mean, if you go into a rainforest, you know, there's lots of neat things in there, but you might also walk out of there saying, fuck rainforest. Because, you know, maybe you'll discover that leeches are fucking everywhere. And I don't mean like people leeching off you. I mean like literal leeches dropping out of trees and latching onto you. And there's a lot more bugs and weird plants with weird itchies. You know, it's not as rose-colored as we like to think of it. And, you know, sometimes it means we want to leave it alone because the biodiversity is good. And we have to balance that with the fact that, you know, we have to do what ourselves are doing. And if we as a species need to slow down reproducing or anything like that, I think that's a good argument to make. But it is a difficult problem because we never really quite know if we can actually do that, if it's reasonable to ask. You'll have one group of people that don't do it, another group of people in another area who kind of have to do it because that's the only way they can, you know, live. It's like, I mean, like, you know, not only is it cheap labor, I guess, for some poor economies, but it's also this thing where it's the only way people growing old will be able to die at least a comfortable death without it being some slow agonizing starvation or something like that. And I don't know, it's all complicated. And again, I came around from the tangent where I really liked that plan tropes, but I think that was from last week's watching, whereas this week's never really covers that sort of stuff, and I was just talking about, I'm blabbering on. Anyways, interesting show, and I do appreciate the fact that it doesn't give like finality to what is good and bad in a lot of things, because sometimes you just don't know. But other times you're like, well, there was a giant fire-breathing dragon. You know, of course they shot at it, but they also ran. They didn't run away and leave everybody else to die, but, you know, they ran to protect themselves because it's a giant-ass fire-breathing dragon. It's dangerous to them, and you can't expect them to just say, oh, well, I guess I've rolled the dice wrong. Guys, let's just stand here and let the dragon kill us and then kill the people anyways. Cool. Fucking diet members. I think I mentioned last week about the lady who seemed to be born with triple dominant bitch genes or something crazy like that. Other stuff. Animal Crossing, I might be finally getting close to maybe slowing down on that stuff. So, like, I have 2 copies of the game, like I said, and I started playing again and started really focusing on getting my second island more organized, closer to what I wanted it to be. And you could say that I've reached a stopping point, because not only is everything in the place I expected, all the flowers are populated the way I want them to, but also the island has reached 5 stars. Which means both my islands are 5 stars, and what do I do from here? Well, it's hard to say because there's stuff I could do. And so I don't really know yet. There is, of course, playing every day just to see if red shows up so I can buy another painting and very slowly finish that collection out. Because red did show up today. Well, I guess technically yesterday. That's the weird thing about recording after midnight. But, yeah, maybe I can slow down on that. Monster Hunter, if I'm slowing down on that, it's just because I'm just tired in general. In fact, I'm tired right now, and I'm not quite sure if I'm going to be doing this right, because I do have to wake up and... Well, maybe I don't have to, but my plan is to wake up in 6 hours from now. Which means I should be wrapping things up and going pretty much straight to bed. But that said, still having fun, still haven't quite beaten a whole lot of the stuff. I need to unlock the Hunter rank cap so that I can start doing some of the stuff that's post that, and helping my brother and his peer group get there as well, so we can do stuff. Haven't tried the new event quest. Right now I'm still just HR7. And while I do play some, it's basically I've just played enough to get my armor kind of where I immediately want it to be. And where it's going to be in the future is a little trickier to say, but I have some ideas, but I'll have to see once I get there. And I guess the tricky part about all that will just be maybe reaching the point where I unlock layered armor and can keep some of the look I have right now. I don't know. But I guess that pretty much wraps up everything I was going to talk about. And then some. Like, I didn't really expect to kind of push on the edges of my thoughts on preservation versus advancement. I guess that's a way to describe that. And I hope you kind of got out of that I don't think that either is the right answer. It's really going to be very circumstantial depending on stuff. And at the end of the day, when we say we're racing to save the planet, I think that's pretty much a lie that people tell themselves, because in reality, the planet's going to be fine no matter what happens to us. I mean, we could completely nuke the entire planet and put it into some sort of ice age, nuclear winter, and all humans die off, and maybe all megafauna die off. But there will be some life that lives through that. And eventually in the future, that life will continue. And so really when you get down to it, there's definitely certain species that we would like to preserve and help right now, but the planet will be just fine without us. And the reality is, we should be just aware of the impacts we have on the planet, mostly from the perspective of we live here, and if you destroy the place you live at, then you can't live there anymore. And I'm not sure that all the pro-environmental stuff actually keeps a lot of that stuff in mind, but that really needs to be the mindset you come from. Because if you talk about these noble ideas of saving the planet, I think you're missing the bigger picture. Because as much as you think we can impact the planet can do just fine no matter what we do to it. We don't have the ability to really blow it up. We don't have the ability to extinguish all life on this planet. We do have the ability to make an impact on it, but life will find a way. It'll just find a way without us. Oh well. Didn't mean to end on such a weird note, but I guess that's just what sleepy exhaustion will do to you. Y'all, get enough sleep.